Today we're going to be investigating how successful were Nazi economic policies. We're going to begin with the aims of Nazi economic policy. There were two key aims, the first of which was autarky, or self-sufficiency. Hitler wanted Germany to become an autarky, that is, produce everything that it needed. This is because one of the key reasons it had lost World War I was its dependence on outside imports, bringing certain materials into Germany. At the end of World War I, Germany had been blockaded by the British Navy. As a result, the German people had been starved, and the German army had been starved of resources such as rubber and iron that it needed in order to make the guns, the tyres, etc. needed for war. Hitler wanted to ensure that Germany could never be starved of resources again, and so he wanted a self-sufficient economy, one in which all the resources needed to fight a war could be produced in Germany. He put one of his lead men in charge. This was Hermann Göring, and he gave him the job of making Germany self-sufficient within 4 years. Although Göring tried extremely hard, for example, introducing tighter controls on imports and subsidising farmers to produce more food, ultimately, even at the beginning of World War II, Germany was unsuccessful. It was not self-sufficient, and it still imported 20% of its food and 33% of its raw materials. Autarky was a failure. The second key aim of Nazi economic policy was to reduce unemployment. Now, unemployment was dangerous politically for the Nazis, because how had they got into power? They had promised work and bread. Dissatisfied Germans might rise up and try and get rid of the Nazi regime. So the Nazis needed to provide work to the 6 million who were unemployed after the Great Depression. The Nazis were astonishingly successful at reducing unemployment. They apparently reduced unemployment down to less than 500,000. They used 3 key methods to do this. Firstly, they expanded the armed forces. So, lots of people out of work, put them into the army, there, they have a job. Also, if you have to expand the army, you create jobs by having to clothe all those people, make the army uniforms, make the army boots, make the army's guns, make the army's bullets. This creates a huge amount of jobs. So by rearming Germany, that is, recreating the German military, the Nazis produced loads of new jobs. Secondly, the Nazis introduced a number of work programmes. In 1933, they set up the National Labour Service, or the RAD, and they provided paid work for the unemployed. Within the RAD, you would do public works, like repairing roads, planting trees, draining marshes. Big projects that would improve Germany, but also create jobs. Initially, the RAD was voluntary. However, after 1935, all young men had to serve in it for 6 months. So by the end of 1935, the number of people involved had soared to over 422,000. That means all of those people are no longer officially unemployed. They did benefit Germany by creating, for example, an autobahn system, a system of motorways. However, the RAD was actually not very popular with those who worked in it. It was organised very much like an army. Workers wore uniforms, they lived in camps, they did military drills, and they had pretty poor quality of life. Poor quality of food, long working hours, poor working conditions. So many actually didn't enjoy being part of the RAD. They saw it as a form of compulsory military service. The last method that the Nazis employed was hiding the number of unemployed people within Germany. So we often talk about the invisible unemployed. What the Nazis did is they were a bit sneaky with the unemployment statistics. So they just removed certain groups of people from the statistics. For example, women shouldn't be working. They should be at home looking after their kids. So now you don't have to count women within the unemployment statistics. That means half your number of unemployed people are just wiped out of your statistics. They also didn't include minority groups such as Jews or Roma, because then their unemployment figures dropped even further. Anyone who was in prison, anyone who was in the army, anyone who was in the RAD, the Gestapo, in any kind of public work, were not counted as unemployed. This is why I'm sceptical about that key figure of only 500,000 unemployed. 500,000 unemployed if you take out these key invisible unemployed workers. So I'd like you now to answer these questions on Nazi unemployment. The other question that's frequently asked about Nazi economic policy is, did the lives of German workers actually improve under the Nazis? Okay, there may be far more Germans in work, but were they better off under the Nazis? There is evidence that suggests that German people were better off under the Nazis. Firstly, they had much higher wages. Wages in 1939 were 20% higher than those in 1933. Secondly, the Nazis introduced a number of organisations that were designed to improve workers' lives. The DAF, or the Labour Front, was introduced to replace the trade unions which the Nazis had earlier banned. The aim of the DAF was to help protect and improve the lives of workers. For example, the DAF set out the right of workers in the workplace, the maximum length of the working week, and minimum pay levels. This all sounds good. However, there are limitations which we'll talk about in a moment. Another organisation set up by the Nazis was Strength Through Joy, or the KDF. The purpose of the KDF was to make the benefits of work more enjoyable, so that the Germans would see their work as a way to a happier life, as well as making the nation stronger. So it included a number of leisure benefits that you could get by working hard. These included sports events, film, theatre, outings, even foreign travel. Now, most events were pretty low-key, but the KDF was very popular and well supported. It's estimated by 1936 there were 35 million members of the KDF. One extremely popular scheme run by the KDF was the Volkswagen. Now, cars were rare in 1930. Hitler asked Ferdinand Porsche of, Porsche cars, to design a car for an average German family, which could travel 40 miles to the gallon and which everyone could afford. And the Volkswagen, the Volkswagen Beetle, was the car that was created. Now, the idea was that you would give some of your earnings each week, about 5 marks, to the scheme, and then at the end of it, you would be able to get the car. In reality, very few of these cars were ever made. Workers did not see the Volkswagen car. In fact, as soon as the war broke out, the factories which were meant to make the cars were switched to producing ammunition. No workers ever saw their money back or their car. Another organisation created by the Nazis was the Beauty of Labour, or the SDA. This campaigned to get employers to provide better facilities for workers, like better toilets, changing rooms, showers and canteen. It gave employers tax breaks so they could then use that money to improve employee facilities. The Nazi Party claimed that nearly 34,000 companies had improved their facilities as a result of Beauty of Labour. That all sounds great. However, in reality, when you poke and prod a little bit further, a lot of this seems very much like propaganda. So, some evidence that very little improved for the German people was that, yes, although more people were working they were all now working longer hours. Plus, although they were now earning more, the cost of living was also higher. So the price they were having to pay for food, etc., was much higher, which meant their wage didn't go much further. They lost their trade unions, and therefore their right to strike and to negotiate better facilities with their employers. All of the Nazi schemes, the Volkswagen, the KDF, the Beauty of Labour, had a lot of drawbacks. Very few workers in reality benefited from them. Few went on the foreign holidays. No one received a Volkswagen car. The Beauty of Labour, the improved facilities, the workers were meant to make them themselves. So, arguably, we have a lot of evidence that this is all kind of whitewashing and that the Nazis made it look like people were having a better time, but in reality, they weren't. I would like you to make this table now for evidence that people were better off or evidence that they weren't. Here are some of the things that we could have on either side. What do you think? Do you believe the Nazis improved the lives of workers, or are you more sceptical?